Welcome to the stage. Touch podcast. Welcome to the stage. Tag team strikes, we connect through the pain. Rolling two dice in the echoes of rain. Hope in my chest, fear in my hand. Armor all cracked, but we taking a stand. Stress building up like the stories we weave. Every experience a mark that we leave. Connection questions mark where we've grown. Not just in combat, but when we're alone. From campaign frames to memories lost. We paying for the truth, but never count the cost. This is Sage Touch. This is Sage Touch. Let the sage. Welcome to the stage. This is Sage Touch.
Welcome to Sage Touch, everyone. Here back with a little bit of a bonus-ish episode. I mean, technically it's in the same sequence, like it's an actual episode. But I don't think initially when we were covering campaign frames, we were going to plan on going this. Anyways, my name is Daniel. I am Bladebound number 1. Bladebound number 2, sound off. Who are you?
Do we know? Have we ever decided?
It's
who's
you.
number
You're
two?
yes, it's you.
Am I number
It's
2?
you. Yes, of
Hi,
course you're number 2. You're the second one here.
I'm number 2. I'm the poop of the group. I am AJ. Yeah. So that means I guess that would make Adam number 3.
Yes, I'm number 3.
Yeah.
And Adam.
Yeah, we're all here, chilling out, hanging out, and we're talking, as the title talks about, Dungeons of Drakkenheim. I don't know about you all, but this was a lot to read.
I did not anticipate this large of a document to go over. I was expecting about the same size as all the other campaign frames. And this one is significantly more in depth.
Yeah, I just wasn't expecting it to be as much as it was, and not to say that that's bad. It just caught me off guard, in which I will say I did a little bit of like looking into it and research. Dungeons of Drakkenheim, the actual module and book, is like 273 pages. Granted, that is an
Holy crap.
adventure, but for them to pitch a campaign frame in the setting and condense it to 21 pages is actually a pretty big feat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lore that this frame adds that the other frames don't, in my opinion. So, like you said, I mean, it was a D&D campaign module before this, so they're trying to squeeze the essence of that into Daggerheart. So I mean, all things considered, they did a pretty good job. But it's definitely the longest by length and information that we have for a Daggerheart setting.
Which I think kind of just speaks a little bit more to how campaign frames, as far as we know, and as we've run and as we played in them, are built from the ground up. And this definitely was how much of this already built building can we shove into this much smaller building? And you can kind of feel it when you're reading. And that's not to say it's a bad thing. It's just, it definitely is different. And it felt different even reading through the campaign frame. Even though the mechanics, I don't think, and we'll definitely hit those, weren't too complex.
No, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it kind of has some flavors of some other campaign frames that already exist, I think, which we'll go over later. But
yeah. So yeah, let's just dive into this. I feel like I don't want to skirt around too much, because Dungeons of Drakkenheim is, for a lot of people, a very loved campaign frame, or just a very loved campaign setting, because this is from none other than the Dungeon Dudes. It's the designers Monty Martin and Kelly McLaughlin, because that's what they say every time they start their episodes. But they also have a Daggerheart staple who designed, which is Mike Underwood. For those who don't know, Mike Underwood was the main head designer of Five Banners Burning, which was our last episode, and after running it is now one of my beloved campaign frames that I really want to get more into that world.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. This is the only frame that none of us have personally been a part of, either GMing or playing in a game. So that's also an interesting take on our end, but it's yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get into it. There's a lot of cool stuff in this.
Yeah, it's not where you're definitely getting the opinion this time around of people who have played a lot of Daggerheart, who are reading a campaign frame for the first time and then kind of just talking and dissecting it, rather than people who've actually played through this. This is yeah, I mean, this is the first that I think that we've reviewed. So all right. So what exactly is Drakkenheim? What is this dungeon that we are going in? I think what vibes did you guys pick up?
The vibes. Well, I've got some touchstones, which I feel like this would be a good time to go over.
Yeah, let's do that.
Fallout New Vegas, the Witcher series, which is just a broad series. The Broken Earth series.
I've never.
I don't think I know what that one is.
Not me.
The Color Out of Space and Other Stories by H.P. Lovecraft.
I know the name H.P. Lovecraft, but I don't know those stories.
You'll know the next one, Resident Evil series.
Yes.
Just Resident Evil in general, and then Warhammer: The Old World, which
I mean, look at what's behind.
About.
I mean, no, look at the art behind your wall, dude.
No, this is Warhammer 40K.
40K.
Oh, this is
I don't know.
World.
Old World is
different.
Like completely different. I haven't gotten into that in the slightest, but
interesting. Okay.
Definitely some cool touchstones. Resident Evil is the more that when I first read that at the beginning, I was like, how is this like Resident Evil? But it's a pretty good touchstone, I think.
Yeah, I would say so, especially with the hint of Resident Evil leans a lot more heavy undeath. This one hits more corruption, but I mean, the reality is it's all kind of the same thing.
Yes-ish. I mean, Resident Evil is also, if you played a lot of the games, they realize that it's not just they're not just dead people brought back to life. There's some corruption also in there, but that's the point. That's technicality. What I want to touch on for this is that there's a lot of open world-esque touchstones in this between Fallout series, the Witcher series, even Resident Evil to an extent. Very much a lot of here you are. What do you want to do? Sort of feel. Not a lot of railroading, at least with these examples, in my opinion. So, feel like there's a lot of options, a lot of things that players can do if they choose to do so. Which reading down through it, it makes sense. A lot of these touchdowns will make sense the more we kind of talk about it.
I mean, its biggest vibe to me is that this is a post-apocalyptic campaign setting, but I also feel like it's mid-apocalyptic too. Like it's happening after the fact, but you're also literally in the thick of the apocalypse that's currently happening. It feels, because the monsters that are currently around still have aspects of, for the lack of a better word, the delirium and this mystical corruptive magic that has now warped everything. Like you're still experiencing it for the first time, it feels.
Yeah, it's like the aftermath of the Ice Age. Almost kind of verbatim, because I mean, Drakkenheim is hit by a meteor. Right, and that's where the delirium is coming from. So we're dealing with, in this campaign frame, after the meteor has hit, destroyed everything, delirium is now, I don't say abundant, but available. And now we're dealing with the aftermath of basically a fallen government, because a meteor crashing into your world will change a bunch of things. Plus now this introduction of a new magical power source in the delirium from the meteor. So it's like that Yeah. Mid. I guess mid apocalyptic is a good way to put it.
Yeah, because we're still kind of figuring out the remnants of what is, or what I guess what's left of Drakkenheim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's read the pitch real quick, just so we can get
Yeah.
this frame's version of what we're talking about. 15 years ago, the city of Drakkenheim was destroyed by an eldritch storm of falling stars. Now, the city is a dismal urban wasteland contaminated by otherworldly magic and haunted by hideous monsters. In a Dungeons of Drakkenheim campaign, you'll risk dangers worse than death by delving through the city's ruins in pursuit of fantastic wealth, lost knowledge, and powerful artifacts. And then the tone and the feel that they're going with are, we've really talked about this already, but dramatic, haunting, post-apocalyptic, and sandbox. The themes and player buy-in are where we get a little bit different from all the other campaign frames we have access to at this point. This frame is a lot more intense.
Yeah, I mean, delving into stuff like body horror, corruption. I mean, really, it's the body horror and corruption. Like the other two themes, or the other three themes, are uncovering the past, factions that are in conflict, because everyone's looking to see what's in Drakkenheim, and then your own personal goals. But this really kind of wants to emphasize that this world sucks. And I think that one of my favorite parts of the section, and this kind of goes in the overview, are the 4 quick facts. Like, to me, the way that these 4 quick facts are written, because it's already a pre-existing campaign, it wants you to know exactly what it wants you to bear in mind these 4 facts as you're running your adventure. So with this kind of body horror, a lot of it is because the gods are silent and distant. They don't necessarily manifest the way they normally would. There's not anything healing this corruption. It's really just you dealing with this corruption. This corruption is corrupt. I say that to emphasize that I think an important tone is your players should not try to redeem these corrupted beings. These are kill on sight creatures, or beings, individuals. So I think that's an interesting thing to make sure you distinguish, because otherwise you're gonna, I don't think, do justice to the campaign.
Yeah, I think in general, this is not the heroic power fantasy that a lot of us, myself included, like to play, where it's like, we're good guys, we're heroes, we're gonna make things better. You're not gonna make much better. Like, this world is way bigger than you are, and outside of a years long campaign, I mean, you're only gonna be able to do so much. And at this point, the corruption is what it is, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
Yeah, I'm reading some of these like content warnings right now. It's like Drakkenheim specifically calls it a dark fantasy world, where it says, "Be careful. There are violence, murder, blood, gore, cannibalism, body horror. There's degenerative mutations. There are rats, spiders, insects, demons, undead, ghouls." Different types of natural disasters, civil war, displaced people, refugees, religious zealotry, and military nationalism. It's just, it does say specifically there's no like the normal taboos of like sexual assault, like racial prejudice, homophobia, transphobia, and all that stuff. So the what you would kind of expect, but it does preface this is a very visceral campaign, which, once again, I think when we talked about Age of Umbra before, you have to be under the premise of Age of Umbra knowing that it is a lost world, and it kind of has the same thing here in Drakkenheim.
Yeah, definitely something to discuss with your party and as the GM or as party members. The all these content warnings, obviously, because this isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But this is, if you want something gritty and something intense and dramatic, this is a good choice.
Which I do want to talk, before we even move any further, about something that it does really well in the quick facts. Before we move any further away from that, is it does talk specifically about how to adapt Drakkenheim to Daggerheart. So the first thing is how the Splendor domain is not granted by the gods. and it actually tells you to tap into specific energies of devotion or energies of meditation or resolve. And it also talks about how the codex domain shouldn't be something that you get alone. The codex domain requires a lot of magic, and should be harnessed through long practice. Um, which then leads to kind of that last fact, which is powerful NPCs and casters are very rare. And so if study is rare and difficult and you can't do it alone, I think that just that speaks to the last fact of how powerful allies and spellcasters do have to be rare. So if you show the players a rare spellcaster, I would argue, at least from what we've heard, that spellcaster is evil, probably corrupted. Like they there's no way they got that magic on their own. You know what I mean?
They're a big deal, if
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah.
But yeah, because basically it says that majority of people, even Codex, Arcana, and the Grace are like most of it is that you're born with it. And when we get into the Mageborns, it talks about that. But like learning magic through sheer will is very difficult in this frame. At least that's what it makes it sound like. A lot of people are born with the innate ability of magic. So that's also, and there's also more to that. You know, Mageborn is its own faction, if you will. So magic's rare.
Which, speaking of the factions, it has it in two places, and I mean, even talking about the Mageborn, I feel like we need to at least talk about them, and maybe later we can go in a little bit more in depth. But there's a big push on the factions themselves. The Mageborn specifically are a faction known as the Amethyst Academy, and just in the short writing of what it is essentially a place that is both a magic school and a guild, and its whole premise is just study and understanding delirium and what it can do.
Yeah, and then another faction, I guess if you just want to hit them all real quick, there's the Hooded Lanterns, which are remnants of an expedition that failed to reclaim the capital. I guess they went back into the capital city after kind of the apocalypse and were unable to reclaim it, and now they just kind of fight a guerrilla war against monsters and bandits and everybody, it looks like. Scavengers that have taken root in the nation's capital.
Yeah. The Queen's Men look to be just like these gangs of thieves that are unified by a queen. So there's like a matriarch of thieves in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't seem like they really care about a power. They just know that it kind of speaks to me like very piratey, like our allegiance is to our people. And we will do whatever we can to protect our people and not be held down by some sort of organization.
Yeah, I think it's like a mafia more.
Yeah, I think
This
so. I
is
think
us,
that probably
us
sits there.
taking care of
That's
our
a good way to
own.
put it.
We got the Knights of the Silver Order, an organization of devout warriors.
So probably people the Queen's Men don't want.
Yeah, sworn to combat supernatural evil, dark magic, and otherworldly incursions, which is they seek to purge Drakkenheim of all traces of delirium. It's weird that they're devout warriors with the gods being completely silent in this frame.
Well, devout doesn't mean devoted to a god. They're devoted to the cause.
Okay.
You know, I just read that as, hey, this delirium is evil and we need to eradicate it. Essentially,
Yeah,
is what these guys are doing.
Yeah, you're right. Wait till we get to the next one.
But the last one is kind of the only reason why I said it like that. It's because the last one, the followers of the fallen fire. This is a splinter sect of the faith of the sacred flame. There we go. Is unified by a vision of sacrifice and salvation in the face of the threat of delirium. So, I mean, even again, maybe not. It talks about that there are gods. I think it says that there are some sort of gods.
they're just not present.
They're not present in everyday life. And so it's really all these factions aside from maybe the Queensmen, even them too. It's all around uh, delirium. It's all about delirium. How do you feel about it? How do you think it's a good thing, bad thing, a resource, or just a way to earn a quick buck? There's a
And I think that really talks to how Drakkenheim as a campaign frame is delirium. If there is no delirium, you have no campaign frame. You have no story. And so if all the factions are working towards it, if all the factions are trying to understand and figure out what is left after delirium has touched Drakkenheim, um, it's probably the biggest deal, and your character should probably be tied to those events of the apocalypse, and be affected by it. Because Drakkenheim as a world, um, the setting, this city that is ravaged, should be the main antagonist, even though these factions probably have minor antagonists in and of themselves.
Yeah, I think it's weird. It's not weird. I think it's cool that the setting itself is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't even need to have necessarily a big bad right off the bat in a setting like this. There's enough problems with the haze, which we'll get into in a little bit, the delirium, all the mutations, all these mutated monsters and creatures, these different factions that are constantly fighting one another, and you or anyone else that gets in the way of whatever their goal is. There's so much content just in the world itself that you don't necessarily even need to introduce a specific bad guy,
Mm-hmm.
and at least not at the beginning of a campaign.
Yeah. Which I think we should probably talk about, like, for players, what options are they able to select? I know we usually kind of touch face, but I did think there was a very interesting note, um, in the class, or not in the class, in the character options, that I don't think we've seen in any other campaign frames. But I wonder, did you guys find anything within the communities, ancestries, or anything, or classes that we should take note of specifically for Drakkenheim?
yeah, talking about the communities. There's nothing in the communities that I noticed that were super game breaking. I think all the communities kind of make sense to what they
They have a lot of
recommend.
lore filled into them.
Yes.
There's a lot of
So
proper nouns that I feel like this campaign frame, with all those proper nouns, you want to also have the D&D Drakkenheim book to know exactly what those proper nouns mean.
mm, um ancestry wise, this was intentionally meant to be a predominantly human uh campaign, while dwarves and elves are fairly common. The your I don't want to call them, I don't think monster classes is the right way, but your draconas, goblins, orcs, they're more rare.
Mm-hmm.
Even so much so that it talks about that if you play one of these classes, you're gonna have a harder time remaining anonymous. um
That's
like
fair.
there's so few dracona that if the your community sees you and you are a dracona, they're gonna know who you are. You're the only dracona probably in that town, or maybe
I,
one of two.
I mean, it doesn't even mention fairies or clanks or
Mhm.
um, fungrel, galapas. Like, those aren't even mentioned. Now it does give us a little bit of, like, if it's primarily supposed to be human, but you can kind of pick
Yeah,
whatever ancestry is.
there's
You can make it a world that's equally common in your version of the world.
Mhm.
Just to keep it true, it is predominantly human.
Yeah, yeah, there's no restrictions on it for this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
um
And then classes felt pretty standard too, I thought.
yeah, the only thing with classes that I saw is more so talking about the spellcasters again, that talking about your splendor domain is not through the gift of a god, but through your own devotion to. I don't even think it has to be through a religious sense. I think it can be, um
Yeah.
but it's because not necessarily a god there that has all these tenets you need to follow, but it's your own personal faith. And I think that that speaks to a lot to when you're choosing these splendor domains, is like, what is your faith in, or your character's faith in? Are they, if they have their own moral code, and when they go against their moral code, maybe there's something there to, they don't pick splendor on this level up because they've been struggling in their faith or whatever that is. So I think there's a lot of stuff to play with narratively, especially when it comes to spellcasters. And the druids and rangers are a little bit interesting too, in my opinion, since they're the only ones that tap into nature for their magical abilities. And there's the meteors basically left all of nature corrupted. That's also another point of interesting role play that you could have, is how do you tap into your nature-esque magic when there's all this corruption. So
Yeah.
I don't think it changes the game. I think it just adds a lot of narrative points that can be put into there.
Yeah. Which I think leads us to, I mean, we've talked about it before, but I think one thing that I think this campaign frame and why it's so massive is because it has so many distinctions. When it comes to the distinctions, there's a whole section, and it probably spans, just looking at it, about 2.5, 3 pages of just Drakkenheim and what is in Drakkenheim, how Drakkenheim runs, like the castle structure, the inner city, the outer city, what's inside Castle Draken. It basically outlines what you would expect. That, I think, going back once more, in this campaign frame, it feels much more like a campaign setting, because in most campaign frames they say there's a place that exists. There you go. That's all you need to know. And then you and your play group kind of bring to life what that is. In this, it says Castle Draken exists. Here's some information about Castle Draken that you might want to know. There's a name of King Ulrich the Fourth. Talks about the throne of Drakkenheim. Like there's just more information in comparison to what we've seen in other frames. That isn't a bad thing. Once again, it's just different. It's not what I would expect.
I think this takes a little bit more prep before you dive into the game. Like, even as a player, you're gonna want to not study like homework, but you want to have an idea because your character would have an idea. Like, if you're from this area, you're gonna know what Castle Draken is. You're gonna know what the Chapel of Saint Brenna is. So as a player, like, you want to have that information so that it can influence and affect your choices that you're gonna make, even in your character creation or in your role play while you're playing. Knowing the nuances of, oh, would I go to the Queen's Park for a nice stroll, or is the Queen's Park something else entirely? You should know that as a citizen or as a member of society that lives in this area.
I mean, it definitely gives you a lot more to build your backstory on. And so I think the nice thing about this campaign frame is, if you were to pick and create a character and you're like, hey, I want to know a little bit about this part of the city, you can just open it up and also Google, because this is a full campaign setting, information about different parts of the city, and then put that into your backstory, rather than kind of like the bottom or from the ground up approach where they give you a name and then from there you decide what is in said named location.
So the only other distinction that I would want to hit is the different areas of the city. So we've got the outer city, which has like your estates, your suburbs, your slums, and that's all obviously outside of the city walls. You've got the inner city, which is protected by the city walls, and accessible through 5 gates. So you have only a total of 5 ways into the city, which I'm sure will matter to you a lot if you were going on an adventuring party into the city where there's mass corruption and monsters. You kind of have to, you should have an idea of how you want to get in, how you want to get out. And then Castle Draken itself, which is obviously a big castle, big palace, very fortified, all that good stuff. But Yeah, I think we're at the point where we can kind of go a little bit deeper into the factions of Drakkenheim. This functions a little bit like Five Banners, I think.
Yeah, I
Just
thought the exact same thing. I mean, there's exactly 5 factions, so
there's 5 factions, and then each faction kind of has the, a +2 with this group and a -2 with this group. You've got your people you're kind of neutral with, maybe like them a little bit. They're your allies, they're your foes, whatever. But there's a lot of nuance within these 5 factions.
yeah. I mean, if we were to just quickly go through, given our already prior knowledge of factions, what would we put the equivalent of the other one? I think the easiest one for me is um, Queen's Men is Armada. That's the vibe I get.
Oh, Amethyst Academy is Polaris.
Uh huh.
Followers of the Falling Fire are
Hilltop.
Hilltop.
Yep.
And then
Queen's or no Silver Order is probably Voldane.
and Hooded Lanterns Justine.
Justine,
Ish.
I think. Yeah, I mean, it kind of has a little bit of a vibe. I think those two probably fall the worst. But like, it's another set of a group of 4 individuals. This time, in terms of detail, we get more detail about who leads each group. Like Hooded Lanterns is led by Lord Commander Elias Drexel. So it kind of gives us a little bit more of these names of people that we could seek out, rather than giving putting the burden on the GM to come up with those names. I mean, some people would say that that's the more fun portion, is coming up with the names.
Not for everyone though.
And so it just depends on the person, whether you want. I mean, the thing is, all these names, you don't have to take them. You can still just make up names. It's totally up to you.
I'm impressed that you both remembered all the Five Banners burning.
I really like the campaign frame. Five Banners burning was great.
I just have the memory of a goldfish, and I was like, you're saying these things, like, yeah, sure, that's what they did. I don't know.
I think it also. Go ahead.
I only have 1 brain cell working right now instead of my normal 2, so that could also be it. I'll say this though. I think a little bit of difference between these factions and Five Banners burning is that I don't know if they necessarily are at odds all the time.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably true.
So a lot of it is and there's not anything saying that you can't be in part of multiple factions, which is why I kind of like the factions as opposed to what the Five Banners burning. Are they called factions? Are they called nations, right?
Yeah.
So Five Banners burning, it feels like you have to pick a nation, and this is your nation, and defecting or going to another nation is a big deal. In the factions of Drakkenheim are very loose. There's no reason that you couldn't be a part of multiple factions, given that you meet the requirements and that you're helping push their agenda.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it's all about. If you are helping them, they don't care what you do.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't hurt them and you're helping them, they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, you can in this setting, if you were to take a quest on from 2 factions, say the Hooded Lanterns and the Amethyst Academy, that's probably doable. But if you were to take 2 quests from Voldane and Justine, probably not going to happen.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Also, and the Amethyst Academy is also another one that that one feels like either you're in or you're not, just for the sheer fact of having
magic.
You need magic, or at least know someone that has magic. Maybe, could be another way too. So that's a little bit different, but I don't think there's really, I don't think there's any problem. It feels more like Skyrim, right? Very much. I can choose this faction and this faction, do these missions, go get paid from both of them, or whatever. So
now I do want to jump into a couple things. I know we might be skipping around on the actual campaign frame itself, but I do want to talk about the campaign mechanics first before we jump into things like Inciting Incident, because I think now we can kind of see how this game is supposed to be run. So the first real big thing is just contamination in general. So how do we track contamination? I remember seeing interviews about this last year about how they wanted to use a kind of fated hope system, which essentially mimics almost to a T Witherwild. Um, at any point, a PC could gain a level of contamination similarly to Witherwild, though Witherwild's a lot more forgiving. This one's very much like, yeah, you're contaminated now, it just kind of happens. So mechanically, you lose a hope slot. But then there are options where after you reach a certain level of contamination, you no longer are able to use your hope feature. So your class hope feature specifically. So you're just locked out of that completely until you can remove enough contamination to then gain access to hope again. Um, how do you all feel about contamination mechanically?
I mean, I thought the same thing. I was like, the contamination itself feels like Witherwild. The frame setting felt like Five Banners. We'll get into it in a little bit. Mutations, and when mutations go too far, felt a little bit like Age of Umbra to me, where all of a sudden you're no longer, your character's not yours anymore. It belongs to the GM, and it's not a human.
Well, they have these aspects, and to me, I think instead of Age of Umbra, I think I'd lean more in towards Beast Feast, with like when you loot a creature, you get different abilities from them that you could get. So like these example mutations that they have. But then I think the one thing that does make this game very unique is the contaminated domain cards, which I will say they only give us an example of what these contaminated domain cards are. So they have like Cinder Grasp as Delirium Grasp, and then it does a little bit different. It does a temporary condition called Consumed by the Octane Flame that forces you to mark either contamination or stress. And it's just a different and probably more beefed up in terms of power Cindergrass, but it does have a much weightier cost, which I think is an interesting way to showcase contamination by changing the domain card itself, which we really won't get until the book's out.
Yeah, I mean, this example, like Cindergrasp is it a D10 or D8?
I think so, yeah.
This is a D12 is what you're running with your proficiency. And then after you hit with it, one, you give the GM fear. And then after you hit, you're consumed by the Octarine Flame. If the target takes severe damage from this attack, they must mark a stress or gain 1 contamination level. So not only that, if I'm reading this, the target gains contamination.
Yep. And the monster mutates, it transforms. That definitely is all Witherwild.
Yeah. Well, and when you're fighting other factions, when you're fighting humans that are also trying to not get contaminated, you now have a way to actively contaminate other people, which is a pretty huge chip, I would think.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to go full contamination and you just tell your buddy to, hey, I need you to just grasp me, please. And then give me all the contamination, because they talk about contamination specifically from the delirium, as a lot of people get it as a way to become more powerful. Which is why you'll see a lot of these contaminated domain cards are more powerful than their base form, because the idea is that they're going to do more at a cost, which is why I think all of them have the mechanic where you give the GM a fear to do something else with that card. So there's a trade-off for seeking the power of the delirium, for sure.
And it makes it a lot more dangerous too. So this campaign frame does sit, I think, closer to the deadly side.
Yeah.
The next thing that happens with contamination is mutations, which happen when you have 2 and 4 contamination. You draw from a mutation card from the mutation deck,
which we don't know yet, but we have
know
some
what
examples.
The first example they have is Belly Maw, which is like a big toothy mouth appears on your stomach. And then you get access to a belly bite and and that's at contamination 2. At contamination 4, you get access to lashing tongue, which can restrain and make vulnerable a target. The
And
next step that
it does
comes,
come with a little bit of flavor, and I think
Mhm.
one thing too with it, I think this is something that I've wanted for a while because I already started doing this in my Witherwild campaign. Like every time they get Wither, they get a mutation of some kind of what the Wither looks like for them. So I think it's interesting that they quantify it here because it is a good
Yeah.
mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one they have they show us at least right now is the spatial displacement, which is kind of like you phasing in and out of the realm or whatever, or the plane. When you get to 6, contamination. So 2, you get a little
Little bump.
little belly mouth. 4,
Yeah.
you get access to some more stuff, and then 6, a creature who reaches contamination level 6 is transformed into a horrific monster controlled by the game master. Once triggered, transformation completes after the next action roll. It is thereafter permanent. So
Alternate
it.
death condition.
that's your character. He's gone. She's
Yeah,
gone.
you could definitely. This is a maybe don't get so attached to your PCs on this one in this campaign frame, everyone.
When I was reading through it, I was like, this is one where you want to hold onto your character with an open hand. You know,
Yeah.
if things go one way, you can make another one.
Yeah.
But this is definitely not one you want to hold on, death grip, white knuckle, try to force something to happen, because I can see a lot of scenarios where contamination happens faster than you were anticipating. Of the, I know I said this wasn't like the heroic power fantasy thing. The one thing you might have access to in a campaign frame like this is actively staying behind or sacrificing yourself to be contaminated to let your party get away. I think there's a lot of cool options, but at 6, you are a monster.
Dunzo.
It's actually worse than death because not only are you as a player no longer there, the GM now just gained a new monster.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
this is interesting. And I honestly wonder how it will be like in actual play, if how many people will go to 6 contamination.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know how
it's-
hard it is to gain contamination, like in the world.
Well, it should
It's-
just happen whenever a creature like deals damage or they do something, they perform an action that causes them to gain a contamination level. Like because a player could just choose to do it because they have a contaminated domain card.
Yeah.
Or the GM could just say, "I'm going to spend a fear," and now you get one contamination or one contaminated thing because you're giving them fear anyway.
Yeah.
We should go over real quick removing contamination. They do have
there's not a lot of ways to do that.
there's a couple. They've got a couple options in here.
They talk about there's one Flamekeeper in the Emberwood Village that has this, but it's very costly. So it's not just this is not like Hope where or Stress. It's not an ever revolving door. It sounds like contamination sticks with you. No, and I don't know if I'm reading this correctly. It says once you perform this ritual, though, however, you can then take the purge contamination downtime move, which is only available on long rest. So it's kind of the investment of do you get the money, time, spend the time and resources to get the ability to purge contamination?
It seems like a level unlock must meet X for unlock feature.
Yeah.
It's
So,
only during a long rest, which,
Yeah.
fun fact, you can't long rest in the haze, which the haze, if I'm understanding correctly, is kind of a general darkness, fogginess that pervades the entire city.
kind of like the Umbra.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So the last part that it kind of leaves us off with, it leaves us off with like stat blocks and like relationships and a couple other features, and then eventually gets to a map. Is it actually encourages, and I think this is interesting, rather than just letting your players like pick whatever they want, it actually encourages them to pick an archetype.
Mhm.
It says, Out of 5 options, like who would like to be the Mageborn? Who would like to be the specific magic caster? And like, well, then the person goes and picks the spells for it. Who would like to be the missionary? Essentially the individual who was here from the beginning and is here for the greater good, something like that. Then it asked who would like to be the noble, so someone from one of the high houses. Who would like to be a survivor, so someone who has been to Drakkenheim before. And then who would like to be the treasure hunter? And it says it specifically asks to try to have one person from each of those archetypes to have a more fulfilling campaign, or a fulfilling party where everyone is a totally different person, which I think the general myth of let your players be whatever they want is only good until every player picks bard, and then it's just like, well, it's like everyone's a bard now, and you can get levels of different and unique class features that you take as 5 bards, but you will definitely get unique characters when each person's a different archetype. And I think that is an okay to normalize, because I think we swung one way as a TTRPG community saying, yeah, too hard. Yeah, we were just like way too much on freedom. Now I'm like, we kind of need guardrails to kind of have a more dynamic story.
Yeah, just put the bumpers on. It's okay. You can still get a strike. You can still strike down the middle. Put the bumpers on in that bowling alley. It's okay.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just me. I do this anyway. I'm usually the last person to create a character because I just inherently will. I'm the fill guy. Like, oh, so we have this and this and this and this. Let me be this then. So I've seen that a couple times. It's not just me. I've seen that through other people, but I mean, you don't want the oops all barbarians, in a high mage theocracy campaign. Or maybe you do. I don't know.
Yeah. So, before we jump to our kind of conclusions, like how do we feel about Dungeons of Drakkenheim? It's like, what else do we need? We do always have this one question that we always ask, and I think this one's going to be a little harder. So, if you're watching this, there may be a cut because I think we have to think about this a little bit. Or maybe we'll just take you along the journey of us trying to figure out what kind of characters we want to play. But the question is, what characters would you all want to play in a Dungeons of Drakkenheim campaign?
So I think this is at least a 2-part question, because I think to pick your character, you kind of need to pick your faction.
I also think you have to pick your archetype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah, this might be a little bit longer. We might take a second here.
Let me see. What's the archetypes?
So we have Mageborn, Missionary, Noble, Survivor, and Treasure Hunter. I know if I were to pick, I would want to be the survivor. I really like the story of like I uncovered something I should not have, and now I got to figure out what that looks like. So I think the natural progression would be a survivor from the Hooded Lanterns, right? So I was part of something, right? The Hooded Lanterns are the ones that survive, are like the scavengers who are just like, we
They
just want
tried
to kill
to
the monsters, right?
They tried to retake the city and failed. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
they're like guerrilla warfare. Mhm.
I feel like that just
They're
writes
scavenging the
itself.
capitals. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that one just writes itself. Like you're some sort of warrior type that went into the city, and you are one of the survivors from your group, and you've gone through some things. I don't know. I kind of want to play, now that I'm like here and thinking about it. I think my vibe I'm sitting with is I'd want to reflavor Druid and make Druid like the beginnings of corruption, and then eventually take corruption cards and just like go corruption heavy and try to fight it
Until you fully
until I
transform.
fully transform. I don't know, like something about that like feels
The
interesting.
forever beast form.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I would probably go noble, just
Okay.
because in this, like, playing a noble in 5 banners is a little different because you have more full-fledged
Noble's
nations.
loose. Yeah.
Yeah,
Noble could mean anything because of how the nations are.
This type of noble, I feel like, is if you are one, you have connections. You're a member of a vassal house
Mhm.
of some sort. I think I would want to do a noble. I think that I would play a sorcerer.
Ooh, okay.
That so not mageborn.
Yeah.
A noble sorcerer, and then obviously have heavy affiliations with the Amethyst Academy. Playing a
Interesting.
noble, just I tend to play the edge lords. We've already talked about this, but it's the, you know, I lost everybody. I've got nothing to lose. Maybe there's like one family member left alive that is a major plot hook for like 3 years or something. But other than that, I've done that enough times. I think I would like to have a actual family and have buy-in where it's not like, yeah, let's risk it all and throw my life away. Like, no, let's use some more tact and try to survive
Yeah.
and not let everything go downhill.
Yeah.
And then just sorcerer, I think would be a fun flavor just because the natural one. Oh, I don't know if we talked about this. Nobles, you do not get named a noble in this campaign frame without magic.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I read that somewhere and I don't remember where I read it, so I apologize. Maybe we'll retcon this if I'm wrong, but
Or we'll
I'm
leave it in because we didn't find it.
99%,
Maybe, why
I'm
not? You know,
99% sure that I read it earlier.
Uh,
We'll see.
yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting story. I mean, I'd be down. I'm interested to see like that. Then there would be like tension of like, why didn't you become a mageborn if you had this natural magic? AJ.
I would probably go. I'd probably go Seraph. I think I would go Seraph. Do um, the Followers of the Fallen Fire.
Mhm.
I mean, missionary would make sense. I would like to definitely have a lot of struggle in faith, though, as my character develops. Like, start out as a, very devout, very much so. Uh, this is for the greater good.
Mhm.
And then kind of come to the question of, what is greater good? Is there greater good? What does all that mean? So I think if I were to play a campaign, I think it would be that, basically just that internal struggle of faith in general.
Mm.
Um, I think that'd be super interesting to play through, especially in something like this where
The gods
uh
are silent.
the gods are silent.
Mhm.
And a lot of TTRPGs, your seraphs are used to their gods being there kind of all the time whenever called upon. So
Hmm.
I think that'd be a fun thing to do that's just different than what we're used to.
Yeah. So, kind of closing out the episode today. There's still a lot, and from what I
There's a lot.
understand, there's gonna be more. This is just the beta
Mm.
frame and the start. There's supposed to be a whole book, which I pre-ordered, and I'm interested to see what the whole book's gonna be. But I wonder how much of this is gonna be a campaign frame, and then how much of it is just gonna be a whole entire campaign book.
Mm.
Um, but to ask, who do you feel like this campaign frame is ultimately for? And like, what does this campaign frame do well? And what doesn't it do well?
This is, I feel like a one shot could be cool. I think this is definitely more so for a committed long term. Um, because there's no, there's no there's no right or wrong faction. There's no one that's inherently all evil or all good. There's no bad guy to fight. It's like a test of human nature and will. And I think to see that through it, you need the time. You need to take the time in it and really let your character develop and all that. So this is definitely for someone who wants to commit to long term, drama heavy, um, emotional. I could see this campaign being very emotional.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
I think we've talked about before that there's a lot of therapy that happens in TTRPGs every now and again. I could see this one being a frame where that happens.
Yeah, I think this frame is only going to be good for people that are comfortable in a sandbox environment.
Yeah.
If you are one of those groups or individuals that kind of leans heavy on your GM to, nudge you along in the right direction, or give you a pretty solid, this is the next thing to do. If you rely on that, this probably isn't the frame for you, I wouldn't imagine. There's going to be a ton of open-endedness. Like, hey, this thing needs to happen. All three of these factions want help. Who do you want to go with? Do you even want to do the mission? Do you want to do something else? So I think there's a lot of open-ended scenarios you could find yourself in where you're going to have a ton of options, which is beautiful as long as it doesn't paralyze you and kind of take the fun out of it.
I think this campaign frame does a really good job of giving the GM and the players as much information about the setting so that way they can build a world, a story, and a character that feels cohesive in an already existing world. Because a lot of our campaign frames are build on the spot or build as you go. This one very much feels a lot more built and feels a lot more traditional to a campaign setting, which you don't have to question like what like, or if you have a question about the campaign setting, you can probably find it somewhere. Now, this will be difficult for GMs who really kind of just want to make things up on the spot because if you are constantly doing that in a setting like this, you're going to find a lot of inconsistencies in worlds, which I think is it has happened. I have definitely GM'd where it's like, "Ooh, I said something. Now I have to make that canon somehow," and it didn't mean to leave the mouth, but then it did. Um, and I also think like this campaign frame, what it is not for, it really isn't for a group that wants clear distinctions between like good and evil. Like this is they want it to be gray. They want it to be dark. You will screw somebody over unintentionally, and someone will probably die because of the action that your character does. And I think the group has to be aware that consequences will happen, and is everyone okay with the story that consequences continually happen and being okay with losing, or I guess in some ways winning in different ways. So but yeah, I think with that then that's the frame. There's a lot, and I feel like we barely scratched the surface,
Yeah.
and I don't even know what is to come, and we probably might have an update once the campaign book is out, or at least just have its own separate video kind of saying what has changed in the frame.
And we'll follow up on whether I was right or not on Noels being magic users, because I swear I read it somewhere and now I can't find it. So, we'll just leave that one in limbo. If you find it in the comments, you let us know and tell me I'm wrong or right. Would be even better.
Continue to shun Adam.
Yeah, watch Avatar, Adam. Gosh. Freaking watch it.
But yeah, with that being said, the places that you can find us, obviously here on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We are on Instagram. We are coming out with more and more things. And as you saw last week, we have a series called The Gauntlet that is coming out next month. So definitely keep an eye out on that. It'll be coming out on Tuesdays as well, just on the opposite week of Sage Touched. With that being said, just be careful of what you touch, because otherwise you might be contaminated. And with that being said, that's this episode of Sage Touched. See you, everybody.
Welcome to the Sage Touched podcast. Welcome to the Sage. Tag team strikes, we connect through the pain. Rolling two dice in the echoes of rain. Hope in my chest, fear in my hand. Armor all cracked, but we taking a stand. Stress building up like the stories we weave. Every experience a mark that we leave. Connection questions mark where we've grown. Not just in combat, but when we're alone. From campaign frames to memories lost. We paying for the truth, but never count the cost. This is Sage Touch. This is Sage Touch. Let the sage. Welcome to the sage. This is Sage Touch.